All right, welcome. It's a Thursday edition of Section 1904, a podcast for white dudes with beards, as we're learning more and more about our listenership here each and every day and trying to connect some dots out there on social media. It is not only hosted by white dudes with beards, it is for white dudes with beards who often get confused for one another. We can explain that here momentarily. Also do want to explain that this podcast is dropping a little bit later than normal, and this podcast is also being recorded virtually between John and myself for reasons that I will accept blame for. I had to be out at Singing Hills. I had to be out there at SDFC training a little bit earlier today. That is practice for those that are not big-time soccer fans. It doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it practice. Nobody's going to be offended if you say, how was practice? Practice, training, doesn't matter, just different terminology. But was out there, and I was like, yeah, last Thursday when we went to Mason Aleworks in Barrio Logan, I was able to get there by about 11:30. I had a burrito. We went in. We had a great conversation with Dylan of Letters to AJ fame. That was a great hour for me of podcasting. And I know I heard a lot of great things, a lot of great feedback on that episode. So I'm glad people enjoyed it. And then this week I figured, yeah, let's run it back. Let's go back out there on Thursday. It'll be great. It'll be great. I'll get another burrito. We'll have a couple of beers. The only problem was the timing from last week was completely different for practice at SDFC because they were getting set to hop on an airplane and fly across the country on Thursday. So as I was driving out to Singing Hills, I was like, wait a second here. What's going on? Like, this doesn't feel so. That's on me. Please don't blame John. And I know I had Will Holder, a handful of other people. Hey, you going to be at Mason today? You got to be at Mason today. And I don't know that anybody did or didn't show up. If they did, well, we owe you a beer. We owe you Definitely. A beer. We can commit to Friday. We can commit to Friday afternoon on April 25th. Padres will be back home taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. So we can commit to that for sure. But this is all on me. So mea culpa to John, to Caesar, to Stella, to anybody that stopped by. That's on me. I just got my timing confused because I was like, yeah, last week it was great. I went out there to Saquon and I made my way back and I had time to eat and it was just low stress. And that was not the case. So actually, as we're recording this, it's way later than we normally record. And yeah, that's my fault. So my apologies to you, John.
I'm gonna reveal something here so that you have to apologize to me a second time. So for the last few days, my wife and I have been staying off the sauce. She said that she wants to take a little break, and she said that she can't do it if I'm drinking around her. So we've been holding firm to a rule of no alcohol at the house, in the house, for the last few days. So I was really looking forward to going down to Mason Aleworks and having myself a little midday cerveza outside of the house. And instead, it will be another sober, bone-dry day for me.
All right. Well, I believe in you. I think you can do it. And you can make up for it tomorrow, where we will be there probably before noon. And tomorrow's a great way to get into the weekend with us. It's not a formal thing. You know, I had some friends that were asking, like, is this a formal thing? I'm like, no, not really.
We're still
it's just us.
Out.
Yeah, it's just us. Like, hey, like instead of me sitting here in my living room and John sharing a room with other family members, it's just for us to change the scenery up a little bit. Plus, Mason's just been great. I mean, they've just been great. We've got an informal partnership with them. So I enjoy it there. It's one of my favorite neighborhoods in all of San Diego. So I'm looking forward to taking a bike ride tomorrow and enjoying myself and watching people get into their weekends, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just since I'm on the broadcast upcoming this weekend as the pregame, halftime, postgame host, I figured it was worth my while to get out there and ask a couple questions that I felt were very relevant for Mikey Varas, just to check the mood of the team, since this is the availability that we get. We don't get availability on Fridays, although maybe being part of the flagship, I could maybe, I don't even know that they practice on Fridays, but anyhow, I'm okay to go out there and hang around with other people in the media scrums and listen to what Mikey had to say. It's, it's an interesting time, John, because, Mikey Varas is a very interesting guy. And I made this point the other day when I was interviewing Tomas Angel. I said, think of the Padres, right? And it's hard to compare the Padres and SDFC right now. Yep. But the Padres are off to, or were off perhaps to their greatest start ever, right? Did I not hear that? And you go, whoa, sounds like a big deal. It's a team that's been playing Major League Baseball since 1969. Like, that seems significant. And SDFC is getting set for its 10th ever game. But that being said, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I guess, they had what I think would be considered their greatest ever win, 3-0 against the Seattle Sounders. Last week, they had their worst loss ever. So, even if you take it in the context of, well, yeah, this is like 10 weeks old, right? You still are riding the roller coaster of going from the greatest thing that's ever happened to SDFC to the worst thing that's ever happened to SDFC. And players aren't immune to this kind of talk. They're not. I don't think that they're immune to it. I think they understand the context, that it's totally different than the Padre thing. But like, we don't know how they're going to emerge from a 2-match losing streak. So, like having to use these dramatic terms about like the best and worst of all time, you could understand how, it could slip into the subconscious, couldn't it? Even if you're a finely trained professional athlete, it's certainly possible that some of these terms that we're using, the hyperbole about the greatest and the worst, which are factually accurate, could slip into one's subconscious, right?
Not that there was really much in the way of sports media in 1969. But do you think they were doing this on the San Diego Padres in 1960? They go on a 5-game winning streak. It's the longest winning streak in the history of the franchise. Like, probably not.
Probably not. You don't think Jack Murphy was writing about that sort of stuff? I don't know. I mean, it just sort of strikes me that it's like, wow, that was like the worst loss ever. And then you're like, yeah, it's the worst loss ever until the next worst loss ever.
Yeah, and like that's where, we've talked a little bit on the air about how this team has a lot of veteran guys that, either lead their national team or were captains on different teams. A team of captains, I think we said at one point. Mm-hmm. So I imagine some of those guys have been through worse in the same league, or maybe in, more well-respected leagues around the world. And they can reflect back on that time and be like, you get over it. You get past it. You figure your way through. And they can view it kind of optimistically. And instead of being like, man, we suck, they're just like, sometimes you lose 2 games in a row. Sometimes you lose a bad one. You just got to bounce back. So yeah. I'm not worried about them.
And I think that's one of the themes was, after 2 straight bad weeks, getting back at home, you don't want to just toss away all the good things that have been said about you through the first 7 weeks of the season, right? And even that match day 8 at Colorado, the fact that they were in that thing all the way up into the end with the mistakes that were made, losing 3-2 at Colorado at altitude, was like, okay, they showed you something even in defeat. Although I'm sure there are some people that consider that to be loser talk, but they did, and they did continue to at least try to, they were going for the equalizer there late, and that was something. But this past week it was rough. And I just was asking Mikey a little bit about the tone, asking the players, like, the players pissed, is there any sort of, I don't suspect there's any doubt trying to creep in at all. But, you also don't want to toss away everything that happened over the first, 6-8 weeks of the season, which, I don't suspect is happening. I'm not presenting any evidence to suggest that sort of stuff was happening, but it sucks. Like, losing sucks, especially when you play as poorly as they played, and by their own admission, when you play as poorly as they played at Charlotte this past weekend. I think they're very excited to get back home and get in front of the home fans. I think that they are very excited about that. I think that they believe they have a fan base that isn't going to be like, yeah, well, hey, that was fun. Like, what else is happening? What else is going on this weekend? A 4:30 kick, which is an earlier kick than normal. I've been asked about this. I guess the scheduling came from Major League Soccer. Why 4:30 instead of 7:30, which is when we've seen the other games mostly, all or exclusively, I guess. And I guess the reasoning was initially Major League Soccer had this weekend as some sort of like major kids thing going on, like some sort of kids event. So they wanted an earlier kickoff time. And then it didn't happen, or they pushed it back to later in the season, and they just never bothered to change back the times. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with 4:30 on Saturday. I got to be honest. As somebody who usually gets home at 9:30, 10 o'clock on Saturday nights, John, I don't mind planning a dinner out with the wife who is returning home from a trip here this afternoon. I don't mind it at all. I don't know if you have any thoughts. Does this disrupt your weekend schedule?
Here's what I don't like about it.
Okay.
What do they call it? First touch? It's not a kickoff. And did they call it a kickoff? Kickoff for the game is 4:30, you said?
Yes.
70 minutes before the start of Padres Rays in the same city.
Yeah.
So now this is not a, you can go to one, get on the trolley and go to the other and good luck to your liver. This is, you got to choose. You got to pick. Now, I imagine SDFC will sell out Snapdragon Stadium again. I think they've mostly been doing that every home game. I don't think that's going to slow down yet. I don't know if Tampa's a draw in San Diego, but they've been doing well. It's a Saturday game. It's a 5:40 game. That's a family game. That's a parent with kids game. So I imagine the Padres will outdraw them, but I don't like it because, now you got to watch two San Diego teams play at the same time. That's never fun for me. I like to be able to hone in and focus. I was smiling.
And plus, we also know that you just hate life in front of a television without a last channel button.
I really do. Oh, I texted this to you. I had a neighbor who was running by me the other day, and I was walking my dog. He literally ran by me. I saw him take his earbud out of his ear, turn around, and he came back to me, and he was like, "I'm an old fogey." And he's not old. He's younger than me, I think. And he's like, "I'm an old fogey. I still have cable, and I still have my last channel buttons." He's like, "Anytime you got a hankering for it, you come on by, you can watch sports at my place anytime." And then he just kept on running.
Hankering.
It was something like that. I texted you the exact wording. I couldn't think of it, but I went with hankering because it was the same. Here's the thing I was thinking of a second ago that made me smile, though, is that we are kind of the SDFC of San Diego podcasts right now, in that, like, we had an episode earlier this week that we had more downloads than we've had on any episode so far. And I was like, best episode ever. And then, like, a couple days later, I think I texted you. I was like, it's been like a day and a half since we've got a paid subscriber. And I was starting to be like, oh no, where are my paid subscribers? It's been like 30 hours since we've gotten a new one. So yeah, you can, not that we're trained athletes or anything, but you feel it a little bit, even though you don't want to. And like, I know that 24 hours of the paid subscriber doesn't do anything. And I know that having the most downloads on an episode a couple days ago is going to be meaningless a couple weeks from now. But, if you take the little victories and you feel good about them, sometimes the opposite side hurts a little bit. That's a great analogy. That is great analogy, because I know I wake up and I go into my email. I'm like, oh man, I haven't seen a new subscription. I figured by now, by the time from when I went to sleep, by the time that I woke up, I figured somebody would have subscribed. What's wrong? Did we do something wrong? Did somebody not like something that we said? Are we not getting the word out? Do I have to go to Twitter? Do I have to go to Twitter and fight my way through all the Pete Hegseth stuff so I can post this podcast? Do I have to do that, or do I not? And, so it messes with you a little bit when you're in the early stages. So I think you're right about that. Mikey Varas, I will say, he is undeterred. Cool as a cucumber, that guy. Cool as a cucumber. Yeah, he is. Because he gets asked essentially the same question every single week about, like, hey, you going to do anything different? And he's always like, no, this is the way we play. So, I could literally come back from the future, or let me see. How can I put this? I could tell Mikey. Now, what's interesting about this week is they are playing Real Salt Lake for the second time. This is the first time, John, that they're playing a team for the second time, right? Okay. Yeah. And they beat Real Salt Lake, and they won 3-1, and they scored 2 goals in stoppage time. It was a close game. I mean, it was a close game. Yeah, I was worried they were going to lose it. Yeah, could have gone either way. As a matter of fact, I was on the call with Adrian Garcia Marquez, and I was thinking to myself, this would be a good point. This would be a good draw. You could take a point home from Real Salt Lake. I'd probably sign up for that in the 80th minute of the match. And then they scored twice in stoppage time, and they came home with all 3. So maybe, John, maybe that was the most impressive win that they've ever had. I don't know. So, but, Mikey gets asked the same question, like, after, you're facing an opponent for the second time, you're coming up a 2-game losing streak, it's like, yeah, we're just, we're going to play the way we play. Just going to play the way we play. We have an identity. We're going to play the way we play. And I could literally tell him, hey, I can almost guarantee that you could win this game if, instead of going like 4-3-3 playing out of the back, you're going to go to a 4-4-2, play in a low block, be a counterattacking team. And he'd be like, no, I'm not going to do it. Like, you just get the sense that he is not one of those guys. And this is something, I think, if you're new to soccer, that you're going to learn a little bit about how certain soccer people are wired. I'll give you an example. I subscribe to a newsletter, John, and it's called Route One. Route One is a football term, a soccer term. It means you're just going over the top. Route One, direct in on goal. Go route.
And I subscribed to this just a couple of the weeks ago, partly because I'm a fan and partly because, you and I might be in the newsletter business here at some point, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always learning and trying to gather information, and it's free. It's also European based because I get it sometimes before I go to bed, and they're always talking about games that are happening today. So anyhow, and they'll just tell you, hey, like such and such a game is happening, and here's the thing that's happening, and there's a little bit of news, and there's a rumor about this, and they do a poll. They do an online poll, like here, vote for this or this.
Yep.
And the one that was interesting to me yesterday or the day before was, do you care more about your club's style of play or just getting results? Okay, so this
the
is the
eternal
poll
question for sports fans.
For sports fans, you think? Do you think NFL fans sit around and think about that sort of stuff?
I know basketball fans do, and I'm pretty sure some NFL fans do as well. There's something to like. I want my team to be successful and win, but I also would like them to play an entertaining style of sport.
You think so? You think NFL fans feel that way? You don't think the sport that has produced the winning isn't everything, it's the only thing, or just win, baby? You don't think the sport that has produced those kind of sayings, most fans would not give a rat's ass how they actually won a football game? I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question.
I might be wrong. I could be wrong about that.
I feel like if you root for a team that's just like a bunch of meatheads and we're just going to run the ball and play 1950s football, that I don't know that that's really enjoyable to watch. I don't know. Again, we might be. I'm definitely not the regular NFL fan. Maybe I was at one point, but yeah, I appreciate when I can watch a team that is also beautiful and entertaining to watch.
Right, but to the point where that's more a priority than the actual result of the game. Like this is something that pops up a lot with FC Barcelona, because Barcelona has a very specific style and shape and are committed to a style of play that dates all the way back to Johan Cruyff, not to get lost in those weeds. But like I have noticed this, right, over the last 15, 17 years, whatever it's been, that even in victory sometimes, like, yeah, but that's not the way we should be playing. And it's not as an aside, like, well, I'm glad we got the 3 points, but let's try to work. It's like, I would rather lose the game than give up on our identity, which is where I'm going with Mikey Varas. Like he would rather, if I told him you could beat Real Salt Lake 4-4-2 counterattacking, he'd be like, nope, not going to do it. Hey, Mikey, instead of having CJ Dos Santos pass the ball to his center halves, to the center backs, the key to success is for him to just kick it as far as he can and kick it onto the Real Salt Lake side of the pitch. He'd be like, no, I'm just not going to do that. Like he would, I'm telling you, I don't mean to speak for him here on this podcast or anywhere, but he would not do that. So this poll, which again, if you're a fan, I'm not trying to get anybody in trouble. I'm not an endorser of Route One. I've just subscribed to it. I don't want to be responsible if you get a bunch of spam as a result. Style of play. Well, let's see. Results, 60%. Style of play, 40%. 60-40 in favor of results.
That's probably where I would have thought it would have landed.
That is. So that's not a surprise to you that many soccer fans, and it looks like there's a lot of people that voted in this poll. It doesn't surprise you that 40% are consider the style of play the priority, not the result.
No, and especially in soccer where like you can win games playing the most boring style of football imaginable and like bore your fans to tears, and no one's happy at the end of that. No one's excited and like, yeah, what a game. They're just like, fine, I guess.
You think if Mike Schilt instructed, his players to, go with a bunch of small ball and it was producing a bunch of results, again, it's hypothetical. So, let your mind enter into the hypothetical. But, if he was not playing an appealing style of baseball, it was exciting and extra base hits, do you think people would care, or do you think they would just care that there were results? I mean, I'm asking. I honestly don't know the answer to this. I
mean, I think the most boring style of baseball is the 3 true outcome thing, right? We're just going to sit around and wait for each individual batter to either strike out, hit a home run, or walk. And like, how many fans did baseball lose? How many fans did the Padres lose doing that? Like, how much more fun is it rooting for this team now, even if they don't have Juan Soto in left field and, Musgrove and Snell and everyone in the pitching rotation? It's like, no, this is fun. Like a fun style of play can make up for the fact that your team is not, winning as much. Winning can't really again, I think 60-40 is a good split, and I think I fall on the 40% of that.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I actually texted this poll to a friend of mine who's a longtime soccer fan, works in soccer, and he had a great response. He said style of play, and his next text was "fuck the glory hunters." Which I thought was a great line. Again, I don't know that you're going to get that bit of commentary in a lot of other sports, but I think a lot of soccer fans will understand this, and I think a lot of newer soccer fans will learn to understand this. And again, I say that I understand for a lot of people who are not soccer fans, it's like, oh God, here comes the never-ending river of sanctimony. So pompous are the soccer fans that they don't even care about results. All they care about is style of play, blah blah blah. I understand that, but oftentimes identity really does matter. Style of play, having that identity. Again, if I told Mikey, listen, every team that just boots the ball 40, 50 yards down the field wins the game, he's like, yeah, I'm not going to do it, man. Just not going to do it.
I'm going to say a thing that I'm sure Stephen Woods wishes he could say on the radio. Shout out to Woodsy. One of the things that I really, really love about Mikey is that he totally believes in what he's doing, what he's trying to do, right? His coaching style, his strategy, and all of that. But not in the Mourinho way of I'm the smart one. You guys are stupid. And even the idea that I should maybe consider a different strategy is stupid and wrong. It's not looking down on you. It's just Mikey totally believes it, right? And I'm not saying anything about Mikey Varas specifically, but I feel like he has big dick energy. Just that I don't need approval from you. I am fully confident in myself and my abilities. And if you disagree with me, that's fine. Disagree all you want. But I believe I'm right and I will be proven right. And it's just this sweet confidence. He's not mean about it. He's not, to use it again, he's not a dick about it. He's just very confident that he's right. And I love that about him. And I'm sure that's one of the things the players love about him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when we walked in today for the open session, he had all the players out there on the field in Savasana again. To the point where I was like, where are the players? They were practicing on a different field. And I was like, oh, the players are already off the field. What are we even doing here?
Yeah.
And then they all stood up at the end at Savasana. I was like, oh, they were all meditating on the field, right? So but you're right. Cause he's like, guys, listen, you can keep asking. It's like, I'm going to keep answering the same exact way. And he's got the players of that mindset too. Cause one of the players that they made available today, just so people know the way it works, usually they make 2 players available on Thursdays, and then they'll make the coach available or in some such order. And CJ Dos Santos, the goalkeeper, was available today. And, this is a guy who, statistically he's had a rough couple of weeks. There's 6 goals scored over the last couple of games. And, he's the guy I think that most has to believe into the system because he is the player, John, that can most be impacted by breakdowns of the system, right?
He's always in a bad place.
You play this high defensive line, which means some of these speedy forwards and strikers can get behind your defenders and they could be 1v1 with the goalkeeper. You're trying to pass it out of the back, and sometimes you can make mistakes. We've seen some of that, right? So, when you're trying to play that style that's described as brave, your goalkeeper has to be on board. Otherwise, he's like, what the fuck? I'm trying to make a, this is my shot at being a starter here. Now back-to-back weeks, I've given up 6 goals. Even if you're like, well, this is why this one happened and this is why that one happened. And, it's sort of a product of, has he been a bad goalkeeper? He hasn't really been a bad goalkeeper here. But if you were just to say 6 goals allowed is 6 goals allowed, you could understand how a goalkeeper would be like, man, what's going on around here? But, that's not him. He does believe in this because he has to. Otherwise, what's the alternative?
I don't know if I've said this yet or not. One of the most impressive things I've seen from him specifically, and I'm a big CJ Dos Santos fan, is each of the last 2 weeks, I think, they've had a penalty kick.
Yep.
And he's gotten his hand on it both times. Now, both of them went in the net. But he knows, he's putting himself in a position to potentially make the save, and he's missing it by a fraction. And I'm like, that's really impressive. That's really hard to do.
Well, it's almost like you were at practice today because that is exactly the question that I asked him.
Yes.
I said back-to-back weeks, can you walk us through your mindset, what it's like? What are you thinking
Does he guess?
When you're waiting for a penalty kick? To a certain extent, everybody's guessing,
Right.
but he said he does a ton of research, and he said, he wouldn't go into specifics, but he did say that there were certain things about the body language. And he goes, and he did say, and this is almost a direct quote, I'm sure the quotes will be available for people to find, but he did say, what's really annoying is that I got it right both weeks and I have nothing to show for it. That's like literally what he said. He used the word annoying. Is like, it's so annoying when you do all your work, you do all your research. He's like, I got it right both weeks.
Both times.
And he's like, in both times the ball went in the net. But
it was like off a fingertip.
Yeah. I think, first week, I think it was, I mean, it just, and he's like, that's what frustrates me. He's like, he's like, that situation. And then he went into the whole mentality of who really has more pressure. He's like, they're supposed to score. I asked if there was any psychological warfare going on. He's like, dude, I can't talk about it. I'm not going to share my secrets. But he said, this isn't like just, you go up there and you guess. And he says they do a ton of work on that stuff during the week. So, he kind of knew, or at least said he kind of knew which way each one was going to go. But like that's the whole thing too. Like, your goalkeeper has to be bought in. Otherwise, he's just going to start doing stuff like, I'm getting tired of this. I'm just gonna kick it 40, 50 yards down the field. But
right.
We'll see. I think a win. I think a lot of good teams are going to lose back-to-back difficult away games.
Yeah.
But winning at home, like a win at home, would be a wonderful tonic for this team on Saturday. So anyway, pregame, 4:00. It'll be Adrian Garcia Marquez and Warren Barton on the call. Of course, Mikey Varas, some people might remember, was the interim head coach of the U.S. men's national team, even after it was widely rumored and reported that the U.S. men's national team was going to hire Mauricio Pochettino, your guy, as a Tottenham Hotspur fan. Mauricio Pochettino, who has the job now, Mauricio Pochettino's name is a bit in the news this week. Landon Donovan and Tim Howard do a podcast called Unfiltered. I think it's the Unfiltered podcast.
Something like that, yeah.
It's pretty good. It is pretty good. I like the two of them chatting here. And their guest this week, Unfiltered Soccer. Their guest this week was former U.S. men's national team coach Bruce Arena, who has made a little bit of news with this appearance, talking about Mauricio Pochettino, or speaking, I think, in generalities. I don't know that he was asked about Pochettino, but he said, when you're a national team coach, you need to know the animal that you're coaching. You need to know the environment. We're lacking that. I think this is obviously specific to Pochettino. We're lacking that. If you're an American coaching the U.S. team, you know the culture, the pride, how important the national team is. When you bring in someone from the outside, they don't understand it, especially in our country because we're so different. This is Bruce Arena, again, who's now the head coach of the San Jose Earthquakes. If you look at every national team in the world, the coach is usually a domestic coach, said Arena. I think when you have coaches that don't know our culture, our players, our environment, it's hard. Listen, Pochettino, very good coach, but coaching international football, completely different than club football. I think that's a good point because Pochettino has never coached a national team before. He's always been a club manager.
Yep.
Making a little bit of news. I saw this clip because I followed the account on Instagram, but I saw that there was a write-up today at The Athletic, and I think that this has got a little bit of traction just because of some of the potential themes, John, of this type of story. But, you're a Pochettino guy, aren't you?
I am a Pochettino guy. I think he's a really good coach. I think he's a really good strategist. I also think he's a good, manager of a locker room and stuff like that. He did great at Tottenham. I thought they got rid of him too quickly at Tottenham. Where did he go after that? He went somewhere else and he was good.
Paris, PSG.
Oh yeah, okay.
Where he was I don't know. Was he?
He was okay. I think he's a good coach. Okay, I have two takes here. One, I don't think Bruce Arena is wrong. I think someone like Pochettino, who is a good coach, but he's not American, could have worked better 20, 30 years ago. But this team, this men's national team, I feel like they need an American leader to follow behind. There's not a superstar face on the team that's this is our leader on the team. He's been here forever. He's the face of American soccer. And we have a coach that he's working hand in hand with. I think they kind of need a leader. And I think it's hard for him, a non-American, to lead the U.S. men's national team in that way. So I think Bruce is right. I also have concerns is the wrong word. There was a story, and you can probably clear this up for me at one point, where like Landon Donovan threw his hat in the ring to be a coach of I think the Wave a year or two ago.
Yeah, I think he was the interim coach there for a handful of matches.
And there was someone told me it got a little weird because he was basically like brought in to be like a consultant and asked like, "Hey, who do you think should be our head coach?" And he's like, "Well, me, obviously me. Why would it be anyone but me?" And this felt a little bit like Bruce Arena being like, "I don't know why someone like Landon Donovan isn't the coach," right? Which like might not be a bad option, but like it was a little bit of like, what's Bruce Arena getting at? But if he's just like, if it's on his face, he's like, you need an American to understand how to lead a group of Americans. Just that, black and white, that. Leave all the other context out of it. I agree with him. As much as I like Pochettino, I thought it was a weird hire when it happened. I thought, who's the German guy who came in after Arena?
Jurgen Klinsmann.
I thought Klinsmann was a weird hire at the time. Like, I get it. I get what he's saying. And you read the write-up at The Athletic. I read the write-up at ESPN. I don't remember who wrote it. That basically made the point of like, America's kind of the only team that does this. Like everyone else is like, oh yeah, we'll get a German team, we'll get a German guy. The Brazil team will get a Brazil guy. Like U.S. and granted, we are a melting pot of culture, or for the moment, and it can be reflected in that way. I think when Klinsmann became the coach, it was like this thing of like, well, he lives in California, he's lived here for a long time, he's been American for a while, but. Yeah, if you want to get these like 18, 19, younger, 20, 21, 22, 23-year-old kids to really buy in, I don't know if they're buying it from a 50-year-old Argentinian.
Yeah.
Argentine?
Yeah.
Argentine.
I think Argentinian. I think both are okay, but I think that describes inanimate objects, but it's not offensive. So we don't have to edit that. Don't worry about it. You've said far more offensive things on this podcast.
Very much so.
Yeah. I mean, I find this to be a very fascinating topic. Bruce Arena also went on to say, you're asking if we lack some kind of pride. I'm watching. I'm shocked. I'm shocked that we can't beat Panama and Canada. Shocking to me. I don't want to be disrespectful. I want them to do great in the World Cup. No question about that. But we only have a year. Time's running out. Got to get going. Blah, blah, blah. And of course that opens them up to all sorts of criticism. Like, really, Bruce, you don't understand how the U.S. lost to Panama and Canada. Aren't you the coach that lost to Trinidad and Tobago?
Yeah.
It does open them up to get completely stomped out in this, even though, arguably the greatest coach that the U.S. men's national team has had statistically. I think you can back that up.
Yeah.
I do want to, I'm not comfortable enough with Mikey to ask him off the record. Like, yeah, everybody thought it was easy to coach that team, huh? Yeah, not so much. A couple things here.
I bet he'd be interested to answer that, but he might not answer. He might not answer it for you yet. But
and if he did, I probably wouldn't ask him on the. I probably wouldn't take it under the air.
Off the record's the right thing to do there. But like, I bet he's got a friend. I bet he has a friend or two who's asking him, and he's got a good answer for that friend.
Yeah, and Mikey's such a cool cat. He probably isn't like, yeah, fuck them. He probably really isn't like that. He's probably like, hey, I really respect the players and I want what's best
he's
for
got
them.
a thoughtful answer.
Yeah, but after losing to Panama and Canada, I was thinking about asking. I was like, yeah, maybe I'll save that for later in the summer. The interesting, so it's a conversation I think that a lot of people could chime in on because you don't have to be a soccer expert to chime in on some of the themes, right? About there's a foreigner. Who's like a foreigner, a guy with no direct ties. He doesn't live here.
English is his second language.
Right. Especially when you're preparing for a World Cup that's going to be in the U.S. and the U.S. is not going to be playing in Canada or Mexico. So, it's going to be in all three. It's going to be in North America, but the U.S. will play in the U.S. So, there are those kind of themes, I think, that could make it appealing to people who don't have any understanding or knowledge about this whatsoever. But, I think that could lend itself to xenophobia and all sorts of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But not the point. I don't know that I'm necessarily wired that way. I think there have been times, to your point, that the U.S. probably did have to be open-minded about hiring foreign-born coaches because I don't know that we were producing a lot of great coaches that could coach a national team to the point where you'd say like there's a level of expectation. Arguably today, there's a dude who's coaching the Canadian team, who they could have considered. But, we've talked about that. I think that was a bandwagon beach topic about Jesse Marsh. But,
oh yeah.
Yeah. Cause he's a U.S. He's born in the U.S. and he's coaching the Canadian team, and that put him in an awkward position because we understand Canadians and like look at some of the travel numbers, look at how tourism and all that, like all of this stuff is like, kind of relevant to this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all sort of tied in, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, like you could have had him and maybe, that would be really meaningful. Like the Jesse Marsh could have been a guy who's like, yes, like this feels like it's my life calling. Whereas Pochettino, it feels very much like it's a transaction. This doesn't feel like it's a vocation for him. This doesn't feel like it's something that he, I've been thinking about being the head coach of the U.S. men's national team forever.
Yeah.
Nobody ever thought about
It's been 5 minutes for him. Yeah.
Right. And honestly, I can't even guarantee that he cares about this, but Phil, like as a philosophy, international sporting events like a World Cup, like you can certainly make the case. It's like, well, it's our best versus your best, right? Like it's our best, the United States versus, England or whatever. Although, interestingly, and this is a conversation now that the light bulb just went off, the English national team, John, the Three Lions hired a German to be their head coach. So I remember listening to the podcast many, many months ago that this was something that a lot of people objected to. And I don't know if we want to be in the same conversation as that, or if we do want to be in the same conversation as the English. But I do understand that as like a philosophy, right? Like it's our best players and our coaches, and I don't know where the line is. Like, does that go to like physios and trainers and nutritionists and things like that? But like where is the line? I'm not exactly clear. But, should international competition like World Cups be, the best of the United States from the players and everybody involved with the operation to the best of the international community? Like as a standalone philosophy, do you think that there's merit at least in that?
I do. Just kind of the idea of like, you don't become a U.S. citizen and a person capable of representing the United States just because you signed a contract, right? That type of thing. Like you have to actually be. I just looked up the guy you were talking about, and I was like, maybe there's some sort of English back. Nope, just a German guy who played German football and then coached in German football, and then was good enough that England was like, hey, come be our coach.
Coached a little bit in England too, so there's some English ties there from Thomas Tuchel. He won a Champions League title with Chelsea, I want to say. I think I have that right.
Really?
I think so. I think I remember that.
I'm seeing
Champions League. As a matter of fact, Champions League coached
and PSG.
Christian Pulisic. Yep, but won Champions League title with Chelsea Football Club back in 2021. Yep. And Christian Pulisic was on that Chelsea side.
Yeah,
but it's a much bigger controversy because people, I think, are like, wait a minute, we don't have enough good English managers around here. What's the problem?
Right, and it's like and we could have had this. We could have this conversation when the Olympics come around, and the Team USA is like, yeah, sure, Joel Embiid, like he grew up in Kenya or somewhere, and now he's the starting center for the U.S. team, and it's like. You could draw a line and be like, yeah, like he lives here now, he works here now, etc. But he only lives here because he works here, and he only works here because he's 7 feet tall and a really good basketball player. And it's like, I kind of agree with you, and I kind of agree with Bruce Arena that like you should be sending your best. That's the spirit of it, right? Like if Pochettino's holding up the World Cup at the end, right. And going, we did it. I think there's still going to be a couple people going, you just got here. And so it's, I think it's weird.
I mean, it is when you think about it, right? I mean, again, now England is doing this sort of stuff. And back to the old thing that we were just talking about.
They're tired of losing. They're just so tired of losing, England.
I don't know. I mean, they played for and they've had some success. They played for a European Cup final, but it was time. I mean, it was time for the previous coach to move on. I think they got everything they could out of that situation. But again, you're right. You're bringing in a coach, and it is interesting when I think about it now that some of the similarities with the U.S. and England. It was it wasn't said this way, but it's like, okay, the coach that we had here with the United States, Greg Berhalter, he did a good job. He created a little bit of a culture.
Sure.
He got us to a certain point, but thanks, Greg. Appreciate it. You rebuilt the engine, but now it's time for a better driver to come in here and drive the car.
Yeah.
And Pochettino's not been good at all. Like, it's just not been good. And like, this job, I'm sure, is much more difficult than he would have imagined when he took the gig. And you could almost see that immediately. And, something similar in England is like, well, we've built this really, really good team and we've got these really good players, but what we don't have is a coach who we think can get us over the top, who's got some, a history of being successsul at high levels. So, here you go. Here's the keys to the car, Thomas Tuchel. A lot of people in England are like, and I don't want to go so far back that we're talking about World War II, but, you got a lot of people like, wait a minute, we got a German, and then like, not only do we have a German, but it's not even the German that we would choose if we had to choose, which would have been, Jurgen Klopp from Liverpool. Yeah. It's not even that guy. And I remember being asked about Pochettino, and somebody said, well, what do you think? I was like, it's probably about as big a name as you could have expected from a U.S. standpoint for the U.S. men's national team. But, I think it was a little bit of a short-sighted commentary that, like, I just don't sense that this means anything to him, especially at a time where, you're getting set to host the World Cup. And to your point from earlier, John, like, he will be a face of this thing, whether he likes it or not. And I'm just not so sure how that's going to go over, not just in the soccer community, but just across the board. I mean, I probably should have said it then, but maybe Jesse Marsch would have been a much, much better choice for the U.S.
Also, like, worth pointing out that, like, in Pochettino's career, and I mostly followed him when he was the manager at Tottenham, who hates being called Tottenham. What he did with the Spurs was develop young talent, right? The Dele Allis, the Harry Kanes, the Sonny, Hugo Lloris. Like, he took these players when they were young, developed them, turned them into talent, convinced the club to not really sell them until he was gone, really, not loan them out. And he was like, I'm going to build a team of a lot of talent and it's going to grow here. And we had so many of these like homegrown players. And then he got them working together with a couple of the veterans. And since then, PSG, Chelsea, the U.S. men's national team, he's being brought in to be what you described as like the guy to get it over the top.
Yeah.
He wasn't even that at Tottenham.
I know.
Like, he's never been that guy. I get it. He's a big name, but like, he's never been the guy to come in and take the team of superstars and get them to all play together in his style and put them over the top. He's the development guy. He's the guy before that guy.
Yeah. I have a lot of friends who are fans of the Mexican national team. And, a couple cycles back, they had, Tata Martino, who is an Argentine. And, there still are lots of things that are said about him. Like, yeah, he was never really into this. He would just go vacation in Argentina. Now, like, we're back. The reason why Mexico is back is because we've got the right Mexicans on our bench, with Aguirre, and you've got Rafa Marquez back. And this is about pride. And these are guys that have done it. And these are guys that have lived it. And these are guys that have worn the shirt and they've worn the crest. And that matters to them. And in the locker room, everybody looks up to them and they're like, yes, these are the right people to lead us in. And Pochettino, one of the first things he did, the USA was playing Mexico, and it was a friendly, but he just sent all the senior players home. He's like, yeah, whatever, shit. And it's like, wait a second now. I'm not asking everybody to go out there and like break their legs over this, but you got to at least, when I have to watch television and see people like Alexi Lalas telling me that this is the greatest rivalry in international soccer. And one of the first things that the coach did was just send all the important players home and treat it like you were, taking on, a college team. It was a bad tone. It was kind of a bad tone. So, I mean, but that's very specific. Listen, if there were a good international coach out there, I don't know that me as a U.S. fan, John, I don't know that I would object to it. I don't know that I fully agree with what it is that Bruce Arena is saying. I'd like to have a little bit of flexibility. And I don't know that necessarily he's the right messenger. But, man, I do think that there is something to be said for international competitions being our best against your best. And that will include the coach as well.
He's the wrong messenger. Doing it on Landon's podcast might actually be the wrong place to do it. And,
I don't know. Got a lot of run, right?
it's just,
Two former U.S. men's national team players.
I know, but like,
Two of the best.
why the U.S. has had some really, really good soccer players. Why aren't any of them moving into coaching, right? Like, you don't see Tim Howard. I guess Landon Donovan tried, but like, you don't see Tim Howard out there trying to manage a team. What was the name of the guy who played on the Sounders? He was on the men's national team.
Clint Dempsey.
Dempsey. You don't see Dempsey like, hey, I'm retired. I'm going to slide into some sort of, maybe he is, maybe I'm not paying attention. But like,
no, he's a TV guy.
What's up?
He's a TV guy.
TV guy.
TV analyst. He's pretty good at it.
That's not surprising based on, the confidence that guy had and his ability to rap in front of a camera. But yeah, it's, I don't disagree with it in total, but I do suspect that there's a hidden message there that I don't care for.
Yeah, I don't know that the theme is one that I'm married to, but as it applies to this coach, I think I don't think he has any idea what he's gotten himself into. And it's not like we're a very demanding soccer culture. Like, this isn't the most demanding place. It's not like, now he's from Argentina, but it's not like he took over Germany, right? Or he took over, a place where he had no experience. And, he's like, whoa, look, this is a lot. He took over in the U.S. where he could walk down the street, almost any street in the USA. Nobody's going to bother him. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like he took over in like Brazil. There is a little bit like a lack of actual pressure here, and he's owed a fortune. Some of the reporting has indicated, even if you wanted to fire him, somebody's going to have to pay $20+ million. And most people think this is just a means to an end to get him back into club football in some capacity. But
that's what I was going to say. Like, why he took the job? Because he needed a job, and because they threw a ton of money at him. Like, he didn't take the job because he was like, oh, I've been waiting for this. I'm so excited for this. It was someone offered him a job. He didn't have one. They threw a ton of money at him. And he was like, yeah, okay, sure. I'll take millions of dollars to go.
Well, obviously, like, hiring him hasn't done much to energize the fan base, because we just saw it in Los Angeles about a month ago. It doesn't look good. And, I don't know that this is a great local comparison, but I was chatting with a friend of mine about San Diego State football earlier today, and about Sean Lewis. And it's like, well, I thought maybe Sean Lewis would energize the fan base, and that didn't happen. So anyway, that's probably not a good comparison. I don't really want to go down that road.
You want to
about San Diego State, but I guess the point also is, like, the World Cup is coming here, and seems like some things got to get sorted for the national team. And, as we discussed the other day, like, I don't know if anybody's even going to get in the country to watch this tournament. These tourism numbers, like it worries me as somebody who lives in San Diego, where so much of our economy is built on tourism, that you see, even for a short period of time, such a steep decline in tourism.
Yeah, it was funny. I was talking to our buddy Caesar on the phone earlier today. I think we're going to see if we can find him time to get on the podcast tomorrow when we're down at Mason Ale Works. And I asked him, I was like, hey, so all this stuff that's going on with, the administration and tariffs and all this, I was like, how is this affecting the craft beer industry? Because that's his industry, right? Like, he understands that. And he started going into like, well, the price of aluminum is going up and that's going to affect the canning, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I get all that, but pause, like, tourism. And he was like, oh yeah, no, we're fucked on tourism. He's like, it's the amount of drop that even on the low end of what we can expect, the amount of drop in tourism just in San Diego is way more than anyone has reserved to handle. And so it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad.
Wow. And just yesterday, we were all excited because we have new flights coming in and out of San Diego. Let me see here. Just a quick search. 2023 tourism industry generated $22 billion in economic impact in San Diego, 32 million visitors, 14.6 billion in local spending. And by the way, for those that might not realize this or be dismissive of this as a regional destination, there's a lot of people who come to town and want to go across the border, and there's a lot of people that go across the border and want to come onto this side as well. Mm-hmm. So the idea that things are a bit tricky and complicated getting back and it's one of the great things that you can tell as a region is that you get to come to San Diego and you get to go to Mexico. Like, it really is. And even if it's not for people that are listening, I can promise you, I see it all the time. I know people who do tours in Tijuana, and there's great restaurants there, and probably head in there for lunch on Sunday. I mean, not just because of where I live. I'm sure it's a little more difficult for John, and North County folk to get down, but it's totally worth it. So that's just San Diego. I mean, that was 2023, a record 22 billion economic impact. So think what you want about what it is that's happening, but I think I saw that tourism was down like double digits in March. I think I have that right. And it's not expected to get much better because of some of these stories that you're hearing. So, just something on a local level to pay attention to, because we know the military here, and we know there's a lot of private sector work and stuff like that, and it all fuels the economy. But I think tourism is, that speaks for itself. 22 billion economic impact, man. That's a lot. 32 million visitors, and not all of them are coming from from Des Moines. It's a lot of people that are traveling internationally to come here, and tourism is something worth paying attention to, not just for the World Cup and the Olympics in 2028, but like, how about this summer?
Yeah, I saw one story about a city, maybe a town, and it was on the northeast part of our country. It was like a northeastern beach town in Maine, and it was like the closest beach to the Canadian border in America. And they said that like their tourism dropped by like 85% over the winter months, and to the point that like there was restaurants that had been open for 50 years that were like, nope, can't do it anymore, gotta shut down. Like there's literally no money coming in to support this, and that was very worrying. And then I saw a few days later, Gavin Newsom put out a video telling Canadians, like, hey, I know you're not coming to America, but, you come to California. Please, we'd love you in California. Well, everything's great in California. Don't worry about
just like you.
Yeah, don't worry about the rest of the country. You'll be safe here. Don't you worry at all. But Gavin Newsom doesn't control the Canadian border. Like he's got no control over these people entering the country or leaving the country. He's just going like, hey, while you're in California, like, hey, it's a great place to visit. They know that, Gavin. Like, you're not convincing them of anything. And the fact that he even made that and put that out shows you how concerned they are, not just with tourism. Like, that's a whole other thing. Just the Canadians coming in, part of tourism, is the part that he's worrying about and trying to get out in front of. So, yeah, it's, I don't know.
And a lot of people, by the way, again, and you could think, well, hey, you know what? None of this matters. I mean, it's I'm trying to think of what I remember, because Cronin and I always used to do stories on tourism, right? Especially post-pandemic, about opening up tourism. And then they got a new regional tourism manager or whatever the title is.
Sure.
And, it's not just like, because people get so stupid about this. It's also how many people work in the tourism industry. That's a lot of people. You're talking about Caesar, who works in the beer industry here, right? Which has its own challenges under any circumstances as that business, continues to fluctuate. But, it's a lot of people that work and people, these are jobs, like these are real jobs. Like these are careers, people that work in the service industry, people that work in restaurants, people that work in hotels, people that work in some of the, the places that you often associate with tourism. Like these are not like gigs to get people through college. These are careers for people. I mean, you've met people, right? I'm sure, or know people that have worked at hotels forever.
Yeah.
Like those are college jobs.
This is interesting because you just reminded me of something. There's a person we both used to work with at the Mighty 1090. Do you remember Kayla?
I don't know.
Maybe. I don't remember exactly what she did there. Events or something. Me and her overlapped by like 6 months, maybe a year. She left the Mighty 1090 to go work for the San Diego Tourism Authority, and she still works there. I just looked her up on LinkedIn because we're connected on LinkedIn. She's a person I might reach out to because I'm like, you work for the San Diego Tourism Authority. You probably have more information than Darren and I do right now, and you're probably worried. And I wonder how they're thinking about it, not just like planning for it, but like just thinking about it. Like, are they freaking out, or are they like, it's going to be okay?
Yeah. I mean, I think I wonder if we'll get the same answer on and off the air, and, it's easy to say, well, it's just a small sample size. It's just March. Somebody I think made a point as I was reading one of these stories that Easter was at a different time on the calendar, and maybe that impacted, how people were traveling. And again, relatively speaking, obviously, you're talking about a handful of isolated cases about tourists from New Zealand. You're like, well, I'm just going to the U.S. and I don't really have a plan. I'm going to go hiking, and then some tourists. There's a story about a woman from Canada who ended up being detained for, and turned around and denied for. I mean, you can find all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about tens of millions of people that visit the United States, I'm sure under any circumstance, there's probably some situations that are unfortunate, but obviously, given the tone and not even just like the tone, like, given the very real thing that is happening here, people are, I mean, I don't ever remember a time where we've heard of other countries that had travel advisories to the United States, and like, that's a thing that is happening right now, that, you seemingly have a growing list of countries that are issuing travel advisories to their citizens if they're thinking about traveling to the United States. And I always say, take that with a pinch of salt, because I got married in Mexico, and there were people that chose, John, not to attend our wedding because where we got married, there was a travel advisory, and it couldn't have been any safer for people that came to our wedding. And I think everybody knows the way I feel about crossing the border. So, don't look for trouble. Trouble probably not going to find you. Yeah. But man, like, can you remember a time that you read story after story about citizens in other countries being advised not to go to the United States? Not because, like, hey, that guy sucks and, like, you shouldn't give him your money because we don't like the way he posts on Truth Social, but like, no, like, it's a dangerous thing. Like, you really could run into some problems if you go to that country. Like,
no, in my lifetime, the United States of America has never been considered a dangerous country to visit. Quite the opposite. And I think it's part of the reason that the tourism is so high internationally to America. Not just that, we have Hollywood and New York City and Miami Beach and all that. I think it's really because from everyone in the world is like, you can go there and there's no risk of really, getting in trouble. There's not crime that's going to find you, really. Like, it's just incredibly safe and welcoming. And that's just gone in a couple months.
Yeah. And again, let me just be very clear here, because I listen to a lot of these soccer podcasts, and there was, hours and hours and hours of conversation about sending the World Cup to Qatar. And before Qatar, it was Russia, right? I mean, guys are on a run. Yeah. And, I remember like when people would complain about, I can't believe this. I can't believe that the World Cup's going to Qatar. And every once in a while, somebody from a different part of the world. And I think that this is valuable stuff to know, like, to not just, to listen to what people are saying in other parts of the world. Would say things like, well, what about the US? And most of it was mass shootings, right? A lot of it was just because
there's guns everywhere. People are shooting everywhere.
But now a lot of it is like, you're going to run the risk of being detained there. Like, and if you get detained and you cannot explain what is going on with you and your visa status, well, who the fuck knows where you could end up?
You could be in a prison for the rest of your life.
Right. You could just end up someplace else because you have a Real Madrid tattoo on your arm.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the advisory that's being passed out. You go, oh, that's dramatic. Well, is it? I mean, I don't know. I don't think it is if I were contemplating this sort of trip, so like, feels like it's a problem to me.
Yeah. For a country that is trying to host the World Cup and runs a ton on tourism, it does feel like a pretty big problem.
Yeah. All right.
We're coming up on an hour, so I got a quick question for you. What are you watching tonight? You watching the NFL drafts that get one of your TV screens?
John, this is such a great question, and I'm so glad that you asked it. I feel like we're learning how to dance with one another because this is not rehearsed at all. No. I am so glad that my wife is coming back from this trip because we have so many things that we watch together, and I have been a great, faithful husband, and I have not watched any of these shows without her.
Attaboy.
We have. I feel like some of my favorite shows are currently on at the moment. One of them, I love this cooking show called Tournament of Champions. And we've got the semifinals and the final. I shouldn't even talk about this because I don't want any spoilers. I don't think we have those kind of listeners. We have an amazing race episode, and Andor started. So an Andor to me is I don't know if you and Rebecca watch shows together. My
do.
wife and I watch a lot of shows together.
Yes.
And man, I will admit in the past, I did sneak in a couple of House of the Dragon episodes when she was on work trips. And then I'd pretend I didn't watch it when she came home. Be like, oh, man, I can't believe that happened. But this is a week where I have been faithful to her, and I have not watched any of these shows. So as soon as she gets off that airplane, I'm going to have dinner ready, and I'm going to get into, she's calling me right now from the airport. I'm going to let her pick. What should we do? Tournament of Champions? Probably going to do Tournament of Champions first. I love that show. I have a great take on Tournament of Champions that I'll save for a different episode.
I want to hear it. But not today. I'm interested. It's been a while since I've watched a cooking show. I used to be really into them. Rebecca's not really into them. So like I watch them, kind of when she's out of town. Sometimes I'll go back.
I don't watch any of them. I don't really like any of these shows, especially if you would have told me a couple of years ago, a show hosted by Guy Fieri. I would have been like, yes, I would have said no. And a lot of that influence is like Bourdainian, right?
Yeah,
like Anthony Bourdain and
that's very fair.
His stance against celebrity chefs, right?
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, this douche, come on now. But this is a tremendous show. And I'll say this, like the champions of Tournament of Champions, go ahead and look at them. And it's a complete blind tasting of their food. All women up until this point, Indian immigrant, Asian child of immigrants, gay chef, and there's plenty of men on the show.
Yeah.
But when you just do it to a blind tasting, it's such an interesting thing to see who wins. Anyhow, that's a different theme. So yes, I don't know. I'm not going to watch the draft. I do have an answer as to why it's in Green Bay, though. I did ask a friend of mine who's part of NFL media this morning why it's in Green Bay.
Give me that, and then we'll spend a minute on the NBA.
Because Green Bay's never going to host the Super Bowl. And it
That's
is dying.
Good answer.
It is dying for some sort of recognition on a big event. And this was the event that the NFL decided Green Bay was capable of hosting.
That's a really good answer.
I said, why were you, who's going to want to descend upon Green Bay for this? Maybe for a football game, as I thought through our conversation yesterday. It's like, yeah, they'll never get an opportunity to host any event. So this is the event that they have to host. I was like, oh, that's a good answer.
Yeah, that is a good answer. I imagine you'll be watching the New York Knicks take on the Detroit Pistons.
Yes.
Maybe some Clippers Nuggets on a second screen while Tournament of Champions is on
NBA TV, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not happy about that.
Did you see neither of the TNT guys? Did you see their reaction when they were promoting the games for tonight?
No.
We might have our issues with Shaq and that crew as analysts, but when they were promoting the slate of games last night, and Barkley's like, what? He's like, why are we stuck with the Grizzlies? He's like, why are we burying, why are we putting Clippers and Nuggets on NBA TV? This is a disgrace. I don't want to talk about that shitty game.
They've been so good the last couple of weeks. Chuck did the thing where he looked at the screen and he was like, Nico Harrison, I know you're a friend of mine, but stop doing press conferences. And then you saw the thing where Shaq had to get up and leave in the middle of the show because he had to go to the bathroom. Yeah. And then the next day he walks onto the set and there's a porta potty next to his seat. They're really good and they're really creative and they're fun and they're funny and they're honest.
Did you see Shaq's analysis of Luka not getting dapped up?
No.
On the court for the Lakers last night?
No, he didn't get dapped up. What happened?
Who was it? It was Austin Barnes left him hanging.
Okay.
And Shaq turned it into Austin Reeves, I'm sorry. And he turned it into an actual serious bit of commentary. He's like, it just goes to show you, he's just not respected. He's not feared in the locker room.
Oh my God.
And Kenny is like, what? What are you talking about? And Shaq's like, never happened to me. And I think he was being serious about this. You should watch it. Try to tuck it away maybe for tomorrow.
Remind me when we're off the air. I have a very good Amin El-Hassan story to tell you. But the one that I can tell you on the air is, so me and Vinny Goodwill a year or two ago interviewed Shaq. And in the beginning of the interview, Shaq explained to us that the key to him being the most dominant NBA player of his era was that he was a bully. And he's like, I'm a giant. I'm huge. I'm bigger and stronger than everyone else. I know it. And I will bully them until they know it too. And then proceeded to spend the rest of the interview bullying both me and Vinny like making fun of our height, making fun of the fact that we probably can't play basketball, like just going in on us. I was like, wow, he's really just bullying us. And a couple months later, I was talking to Amin Al-Hassan, and who was tight with Shaq because they were in Phoenix together and they used to hang out all the time. And I was like, yeah, Shaq told me the key to why he was such a good NBA player. And he was like, what did he tell you? What did he tell you? I was like, he said it's because he's a bully and he wanted to make sure everyone knew it. And Amin just got this big smile on his face. He goes, so Shaq was being honest that day, huh? And it's like, yeah, he's just a bully, man. He wouldn't have taken that. If someone left him hanging, Shaq would have put his elbow in that guy's chest. Like
he admitted that, John. It's literally what he said.
Yeah.
He said like, cause Kenny started laughing, right? Like Kenny thought it was ridiculous.
Kenny didn't care.
And he's like, you literally would beat up a teammate if they didn't high five you or 100%. Dap you back. And he goes, I forgot the name. He goes, well, why don't you ask such and such? I was like, oh, like this
used to beat people up in practice, like all the time.
Yeah. Amin has told me a story on the air about like Shaq flipping over the food table and things. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that went on there. Yes, I will work up the energy and strength to watch the Knicks today. Such an effort to watch this goddamn team. I swear, it's like, man, it's just like it takes more out of me than the players. It's just like exhausting to watch them.
Someday, I want to get a Knicks player on here and be like, do you understand? This takes more out of Darren and when you're playoff games than it does out of you.
I know the group chat has been resting. It's been quiet for a couple of days, but yeah, I'm sure down 10 in the first 7 minutes. Like, why? It's never easy. It's just never easy.
And now they're in Detroit, so they can't even have the building just laid on fire for them and help them come back.
Yeah. Why? Do you have anything specific you want to mention about NBA tonight? Triple header.
No, just that I'm not going to spend more than, the Grizzlies Thunder game will go on the second TV, which is like on the other side of the house. Like,
your question was NFL. Like I don't think there's any room tonight for me with the NFL.
It's like, here's the thing. I'm probably going to choose Grizzlies and Thunder on the second TV instead of the NFL draft. I'm sure my wife will be like, who are the Cowboys picking? I don't know. But yeah,
I'm excited. Have a pick?
I have no idea.
Do they have a pick in the first round?
Probably. No idea. They were terrible last year. I hope they do. I don't remember who the other Schottenheimer's their coach, right? Brian Schottenheimer, I think, is who they hired as their head coach.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
That's brutal. This is a brutal franchise. Just an old man just running this team into the ground over and over again. No, I'm going to be focused on the Knicks game and the Clippers game tonight, and everything else will take a back seat.
Yes, I think so. Again, and I will try to play a little bit of catch up since I'm departing on Tuesday. I don't want to leave home with a full library full of television programming, especially when we're close to the end on some of them. Do you guys watch Andor?
So we always watch shows together. Recently we had been watching 3 shows. We're watching Severance, Shrinking, and we were watching The Pit.
Okay.
Severance we're getting caught up on. Shrinking we're getting caught up on. The Pit we watched in real time. The Pit ended, so now there's an open slot there. And I pitched to my wife the other day that open slot should be Andor. I explained to her why. Like me, she loves Rogue One. She said it's her 3rd favorite Star Wars movie. It is my favorite Star Wars movie. And I've heard nothing but wonderful, wonderful things about Andor. So I think that's going to get the 3rd spot, which means when we probably get, a little tired. We've been watching a lot of Shrinking lately, trying to catch up on that. When we get a little tired of that, we'll probably start episode 1, season 1 of Andor and start getting caught up on that.
Okay, good. And how far along are you on Severance and Shrinking? Because these are 2 shows that I have liked and watched through all of them.
Severance, I personally watched by myself season 1 when it came out. It was a year and a half ago, whatever it was, 2 years ago. But I've since forgotten a lot of it. So we're going back. We're rewatching it. We're probably about halfway through season 1. Shrinking, we are 2 or 3 episodes into season 2.
Okay.
It's getting real good. It's getting real good. The daughter just went to the coffee shop to try and talk to Roy Kent and ended up screaming "fuck you" at him. So that's roughly where we are.
Okay, that's a good show, man.
It's a at
times
show.
it's like really absurd, but it's a good show. Really,
it makes sense that it's Bill Lawrence, who's the guy who did Scrubs, and the guy who did Ted Lasso, I think, because it's just, you can, there are moments where it's absurd. There are moments where it leaves you giggling, and there are moments where it just punches you in the gut. It does a good job of mixing all those together. So I'm not surprised with those guys, but it's a very good show, and it's getting better. Season 2 is already, I can tell, better than season 1.
Yes. And again, I'm a big fan of themes. There are some themes there that are absolutely worth it. Anyhow, also apologies for all the confusion yesterday. I'm glad you sorted that all out on Blue Sky.
Yeah. Sorry to Only Padres, who I think his name is Nathan. Shout out to Rob, who took it all in stride, him being confused for somebody else. And as a white guy with a beard, I apologize for confusing a bunch of white guys with beards. You said earlier that this is a podcast for white guys with beards. I also think it can be a podcast for other people as well.
Yes. As a matter of fact, I think we're probably going about it wrong if we only have white dudes with beards who are subscribing to this. So yeah, I don't even know that that's accurate, to be honest with you.
Yeah, probably not.
It's not like I'm zooming in on anybody's profile pictures, because that would be kind of weird. Yeah. Padre off day today. John wrote something about the Padres. You can go to section1904.com and you could read John trying to somehow rationalize or somehow make everybody calm down a little bit that the Padres aren't the best team in baseball anymore, which I must admit I don't fully understand the newsworthiness of that, but anyway.
I felt like writing something.
I know. Well, you're not the only person to point this out. I've seen quite a few people say, well, Padres no longer have the best record in baseball. And I go, well, that's probably a footnote to the season. I don't know the newsworthiness of it, but I'm not a newsman, John.
Yeah.
I'm just an opinion person out here. And thank you to everybody for subscribing. Thank you to my buddy John Schaefer too. Saw his name on the list, and big fan of Schaefer. Worked with him forever, and when you're getting that kind of support from anybody, it's incredibly meaningful. And to get it from people who are actively trying to destroy makes it even better. I love John.
And by the way, the Discord invites are going out. Discord doesn't like that we tried to send all of them at the same time, so now we're sending a little bit at a time. So if you haven't gotten yours yet, you will get yours soon. I saw a couple people showing up in the Discord. There's already a couple conversations going on. Darren, I created a wine channel just for you. I believe your buddy Tony Bubbs was in there asking people for wine opinions. So I'll see you and everyone else in the Discord shortly.
All right. Sorry for the late drop here this afternoon, but thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting, and thank you for interacting. And we will do it 100% Friday from Mason Ale Works. Mario Logan. See you then.